Hi, so who of you uses Chef? Yay, my talk will have sense. So anyway, I'm Marta Paczyrkowska. I'm a junior software engineer at Zero of Coins. You know the drill, Twitter, GitHub, Twitter, GitHub. And I'm here to talk about Chef browser, which is a very simple tool to enhance your everyday work with Chef. So if you use Chef, you probably use also Knife. And if you use Knife Show and Knife List a lot, you might have realized that sometimes finding certain types of data can be cumbersome. For example, when you have to use, when you realize how nested some of the JSON attributes are, it might be not so easy to make sense of them, and you might get lost where you exactly are. Besides, it's a console tool, so we can use an app for that, and that's where Chef Browser comes in. It's a read-only Chef web UI, which I will show you. It's made in Ruby and Sinatra, and it's completely open source. So if you like it, you might contribute to it. And now I'm going to show you a live demo of how Chef Browser looks. So all I have to do is download it from GitHub, set it up, and Chef Browser allows you to block access to your data using a login screen, and all the users that have access to this data come from the Knife user list. So I'm there as a Knife user, I type my super secret password, and I'm in. And the first thing I see are a list of all the resources that I have on my Chef server. They're divided into environments, roles, data bags. You can also view data bag items. And the next thing I see when I click on any of those nodes or environments or roles, I can see all of the attributes of a given resource. The views of the attributes are resource specific, but the basics are the same. First, you see the basic information about a resource. And when it comes to nodes, you can see FQDN, IP, the environment this node is running in, and all the tags associated with a node that are clickable, and nodes run list. And below that, you can see a very handy list of JSON attributes, which I presented in a flat structure as a JSON path. So regardless of how deeply nested you are, you know exactly where you are. Apart from that, everything is, all the attributes are divided into, as you can see, default, normal, override, automatic full, just like the attributes according to their priority. So it's very easy to find yourself among all this data. So for example, if you want to know what OHI is responsible for, you just click on the automatic tab. Another cool thing is that all the attributes can be filtered live. So if you're not sure what you're looking for, you can do trial and error. So I don't know, I can write Ruby and I can see everything. And you can also look for nested stuff. All you have to do is do a dot and I don't know, look for versions. And there you go. Another feature of Chef Browser is that it mimics Knife search. So if I want to look for nodes that are named production, let's say, or named batch, then I just enter that in the search field, press enter, and there you go, all nodes named batch. If I search for some stuff often, for example, I have this person that keeps forgetting their MySQL password, then all I have to do is open my settings file, which is very simple and looks more or less like this, and define my saved searches, and then when I run Chef Browser, they are show themselves here. So I can just click, for example, here, and there you go. Environments look a little differently. You also have a list of attributes, but you can also very easily look for all the nodes that are connected with a certain environment, which is very useful. And when it comes to roles, additionally, you see a run list, and everything is clickable. And in the future, we're planning to implement also handling cookbooks. So you'll be able to view recipes and the contents of every file in a cookbook. So just do.
Florian, are you still here? Florian? Ready? Set?
Wait, we have to sync. Ready, set,
Go.
go.
You're cheating.
I'm cheating. Hi, I'm Norbert, and I want to tell you about my favorite Ruby refactoring tool. So, we're going to pull some code off of GitHub, but we're not going to analyze the code. In fact, we are interested in code shape. So we've got a class, and since it's a Rails project, it's going to inherit from 1,000 other classes. And it's got a method, and the method does one thing, so it is a good method. But then, requirements change, and we start including branching. Then there's some assertions that we need to do ahead of time. Oh, sorry about that. All right. And then we need to do some, sorry, down. Okay, so, and then we're going to start including other code that does other things that are not specifically related to the method. And then that other code starts throwing exceptions, so then it turns out we have to start handling all these errors. And over time, these methods turn into these humongous beasts that we can't really control. So then someone comes along and goes, you know what, these are like blocks of code that are doing different things. So let's add comments, right? Because that always helps. And then at some point, hopefully very quickly, we revert that commit and we do the next best thing, which is extract method. And it turns out that usually when you extract it into even more blocks, which is great. But this is where usually our refactoring stops. And this is a problem because this class was evolving over time and it was doing other things outside of this. So this is not what the real world looks like. It looks more like this when you open it in an editor. And this is a problem because it doesn't even look like this. It actually looks like this. All I know is that I entered that method and then something was going on and then I need to figure out what the bug is. So I need to open up the editor and I need to build up over time this mental model again. So this is where service object extraction and things come in, right? This is what we've been talking about for a long time. And so we pull out all of this code, all these helper methods, we pull them out into a separate class, we isolate it completely, and all the original controller does is just call this service object. So this tool that I'm talking about is this gem method struct, which is about 10 or 15 lines of code. And all it does is it codifies this process. And so basically, it removes some of the boilerplate. So it forces you to do three things. You need to figure out a name for the action that you want to do. You need to identify all of the possible dependencies, and you need to implement the method call. Since it's a separate class, you can add all these helper methods and all this stuff they usually do in plain old Ruby. And then you can either call it via the class method, or you can instantiate it and then call it later. Call it, by the way, is a great default because it works like procs and lambdas, so you can pass it into any place where they would expect that. But it also has this option where you can pass in a custom method name, which is great, for example, for delay job. Delay job assumes that the method is going to be called perform, so you can actually define a separate method. So this is a very simple concept, but what we found out is when we started using it everywhere in production, and there's tons of benefits from this. So first of all, it forces you to name the thing that you're doing. So an email invite or like an email that's being sent as a part of user registration is no longer a callback in a model, or it's some method that's getting called in a controller. It's actually part of the business of a user registration action. Similarly, the things that you name actually end up being verbs, not nouns. On top of that, you need to identify all of the possible dependencies related to the action that's involved. And on top of that, all the helper methods get extracted out, which is really great because you burn all bridges. I can't count how many times after extracting some kind of action like this with all of the helper methods, through searching and running tests, we realized that some other things were starting to become dependent on those helper methods that you originally extracted for something else, which is terrible because they weren't designed. There were some private API. I mean, what's right? You can't get more single responsibility principle than that, really. And it's great because it basically helps you do composition over inheritance, which is a much better polymorphic system. which results in very happy, isolated tests. I've got a bunch of time. So that's me. That Pavel is the guy who wrote method struct, and that's method struct. It's a very simple gem. And since I've got about 30 seconds, I can also mention that immutable struct is also great.
Thank you. Given the circumstance, I need to introduce two new rules to the lightning talks. Rule number one, new rule is less than 100 words per minute, which you definitely broke. And the second one is you need to mention the word Java at least once. Ready? Set? Yeah, try that.
Hello.
Go.
Hi there. My name is Piotrek Ziętara. I'm a developer at Rebased. I work with Tomasz and Piotr, who was today having a presentation on testing. Well, I have only one question, so I won't spend the whole 5 minutes. So maybe I will speak a little longer. But anyway, I want to ask you one philosophical question. Do Ruby objects exist? You can fill in a survey. I know you may perceive this question as stupid. Very good. Then explain me, why do you perceive it as stupid? It will be a great help because I'm going to have a presentation on the 19th on Warsaw Ruby Users Group. It's WRUG next week. And this survey will help me with some ideas I have about philosophy connected with programming in Ruby. So I'll be very grateful if you fill in the survey. And that's actually everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Actually, you fulfilled the first rule, but not the second. Hence, you won't be considered in the prize draw. Yeah.
Yeah, so the survey is on Facebook, on Wroclaw. Sorry?
You.
Yes, on Wroclaw Facebook page. Thank you.
What does this mean? Ready?
No,
Set?
no. Why this doesn't work?
Because it's Linux.
Seriously.
Ready? Set? Go.
All right. So ping pong. Where does this came from? Grab the microphone. Hello. Yeah. So thank you for that. I forgot. So ping pong. Where this came from? There was this post by guys from Grouper. They basically taught a little bit of things that we talked today and yesterday. Like somebody just, one guy just we'll soon know that that was a poor guy. He mentioned that there are some parts of race missing and wrote a nice article about how to bring those parts in. And what happened is DHH took part in this discussion on Hacker News, and he said such things as in the example, yeah, you can feel the style of the discussion that was going on there. But one thing that was very honest that he mentioned was that he can he doesn't like read those abstract discussions because this article and the discussion underneath it was yeah, it was getting more and more abstract, and he said basically that he's not interested in that, but he would love to do some ping pong over the code. And this gave me an idea, and I used my wonderful 75-minute Rails application technique to bring this idea to life. And what I did is I wrote a simple application for DHH, where you can submit your gist with your code base, and he will respond with his version. So a ping pong with DHH. And the idea is that we will submit our gists. Some kind of judges, reviewers, whatever, will like choose the best 5 entries, and we'll send them to DHH. And I asked him, "Do you want to do this?" And he said, "Sounds good." So yeah, that's it. Just go to dhhpingpong.com. You can sign in with GitHub. You can sign in with GitHub. Please provide your email so we can do a sort of newsletter afterwards. There's a week for your entries. I will ask some of the organizers and probably speakers to help me with choosing the best 5 entries. And after a week, we'll send them over to DHH and make him deliver his promise. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you didn't mention the Java test.
The whole thing would not happen if the guys from Grouper would write their code in Java.
Woo! Okay. That's so he's not allowed to see it, and that's part of the fun, you know? Okay, ready? Woo! Nice. Even your Mac disagrees with what. Ready, set, go.
Java is cool. Okay. So that's done. No, really, Ruby on Rails is cool. My name is Alex, and I'm here as a devil's advocate because all day I hear Rails is shitty. Maybe not literally, but Rails is not that good. Rails is blah blah blah. Rails is blah blah blah. I want to remind you that Rails is cool. Who think that Rails is not cool? Really? You all love Rails. Who think that Rails is cool? What about rest? Okay, who think? Okay. Did I ask this question? Yeah. Okay. Who doesn't use Ruby on Rails here, on this side? 1, 2, 3, 5 persons. So we all use Rails, and there are reasons why we use it. So we can complain about it, but there are still some reasons that Rails is cool. And remember good old times? Oh, not this one, this one. So back in 2006, 2007, 2008, it was all new shiny. We could create blog in 15 minutes. We could create shop in few days. We could create new Facebook in few weeks. And that was really cool. And we can do it still now. And not every Rails application need separate persistence. Most of them are really, really simple. And remember not to over-engineer things. And by the way, what are your alternatives not to use Rails? Who used Sinatra in production, really? Wow, it's more people than I expected. It's really cool because there is this law, I call it Dombrowski law, that every advanced Sinatra application has to be rewritten in Rails at some point.
Not true.
Not true. If it's not, if you don't have to rewrite it, it's not advanced enough. So Rails is cool, but okay, you just have to remember about few things, and everything will be fine. You use Rails, maybe just don't use observers. and you'll be fine. Really, really, it's okay. Oh, maybe not too much filters. Before filters and after create filters and before create, before validation. Okay, not use it, but you'll still be fine. Maybe also don't use helpers at all, really. You know all these files with 1,000 lines of some simple methods for views, and you have like 20 of these files, and you don't know where is this method, in which file. So, I don't have to talk about concerns. And maybe don't inherit everything from active record. You need some pure Ruby objects. But if you follow all these rules, it will be really cool, and you can be fine using Rails without all these things eventually. So Rails is cool, and if you think it's not, and you need to over-engineer everything, at least you can provide some simple API using routes and controllers, and you don't have to use Rails. And remember, please, okay, I have 1 minute. Remember the reason why we are using Ruby and why we are using Rails? Most of us came here from PHP because Ruby allows us to write less clumsy code. That's the reason number 1, and I think everybody agree on that. And the second reason, second group of people come from Java, where we had this abstract singleton proxy factory proxy class, which inherited from some presenter. And please don't do that for Ruby. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for mentioning Java twice. Come on. Ready? Steady.
Wow, it's Linux and it works.
Wow. Almost. But that's definitely an improvement compared to last year. So Linux is really making progress.
It's a year of Linux.
Woo! It works, besides that you have to install some drivers. But rock and roll.
Hello. I will talk about React.js and Hexagonal.js. Have anyone developed in React.js before? Wow. Have anyone developed in Hexagonal.js before? I know one. I know this guy. Okay, so we need to integrate those two things. So I nailed it almost. And what's the context? We use Hexagonal.js in our company, and it's about creating totally decoupled objects like use case, adapters, and graphical interface, which we can think about it's another adapter, and glue it together with aspect programming. And I will show how it's done. So why React? Do I need to explain? J. Carey. Okay, so we have some reasons here. I wanted to substitute this violated with raped, but it will be offensive, but I want to avoid this. So that's why I use React. And what's React? It's great. It's absolutely great, and it needs to have something in common with Java, I think. So how does it look? Okay, So here we have a component in React. Here it's a simple counter, and we need to combine it. So here we have a state with a count, and here we have increment, and that's how we glue it together with our use case, which does exactly the same. And here we have this, and this is what will happen after invoking this method on this component, and it's all about this. Okay, so it's great. So we will check if it works. Oh, no. Probably not. But we have this first issue, and I'm great with this React, so I will do some copy-paste here. Oh, okay. Click. Oh, and it's better. So does it work? Oh, right now it works. So what was the issues? The issues is the weird behavior when we are gluing it. So we cannot glue before render, and we have to render the component with React, and it's easy. We need to do cut and paste, but this another case, I forgot to change the code, so I solved it already, but I will want to show you. So I don't know, it works. But if you encounter the problem when you have your method invoked only when you do it second time, not the first time, you have to force update on the glue. So in this part where we glue things up using aspect programming, we can do this. And it's all. Thank you.
Ready?
Okay,
Set?
go.
You didn't mention Java, bad boy. Go.
Okay, so let's talk about
Sorry for that.
randomness and random. My name is Mateusz, and I'm going to tell you why random in Ruby, the class random, is not really good for use in production. And I know that most people of you don't do that, but anyway, I have seen some code bases that actually use that. And these are the and if you do that, these are the reasons why you should stop using it. So let's talk about randomness. Do you really know whether that output of consecutive 9s, is it random or not? Well, you cannot tell. Really, if you get a longer sample, then it can still be random. So there are some problems with Ruby's random number generator. If you get enough outputs from it, then you can predict the next ones. And if you use it for something that needs random numbers, like generating keys or for sorting or whatever, then someone else can, in some cases, predict that, and that's not good. So how to break that? Well, Ruby uses a library called Mersenne Twister to implement it. It is seeded with 32-bit integer, and it generates state of the random number generator, which is an array of 624 integers, which is used as a shift register. When the next random number generated, we take the first thing from the shift register, we derive the output from that, and the problem is that the output is derived in a reversible way, so we can recreate that state. So the plan is get the 624 consecutive outputs. That's the easy way. They don't have to be consecutive, but in this case, I've implemented it to be consecutive because that's easier. And then reverse these equations, which look kind of hard, but they are kind of simple to reverse, and then load the restored state and generate the next numbers that will be generated by the generator. So reversing the equations 1 and 3, they are self-cancelling, so all we need to do is that we need to repeat them. Number 4 is just few bit shifts more and reapplying the XOR. And number 2 is a little bit more of the same thing, but with masking, and then we can get the state. So let's go with a short demo. Well, the demo is in Python. That's because I can reseed the generator with state easier with Python. Otherwise, I would have to patch Ruby to do that. So this is a simple game. You have to guess a few consecutive numbers. There are 64-bit numbers, so it just takes 2 outputs from the generator, concatenates them, and that's all. And once you get them, you'll be able to get the secret. So basically, I needed to recreate the whole state of the generator. Then I got all these numbers, I predicted them correctly, and then I got the answer in the end. So what now? That's not here. It doesn't happen here, but it's really nice to mention it anyway. Don't seed random number generators with predictable numbers like the current time. It's generally a bad idea. Don't leak random number generator outputs. Also a bad idea, as we can see here. And use secure random for serious work. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready? Set. Go.
Okay, so nobody knows Ruby. This is basically little things, and you probably know many of these, but I'm sure almost everybody will learn something. So first of all, I'm just late to the party, but I only learned this yesterday. In IRB and in Pry, you can get the last evaluated value back with an underscore. Then another great, if you're talking about obscure Ruby stuff, is the flip-flop operator. So watch me live code here. So I have this list of a number of strings, and then have these. So what's happening here? So basically, this flip-flop, the dot dot there, that's not a range, that's a flip-flop. So it's like a switch, and the first statement, the first expression turns the switch on, and the second turns the switch back off. So you see what's happening? It's pretty cool, right? Can Java do this? Don't think so.
Woo!
Okay, other obscure Ruby syntax, the block local variables. So we all know that if the variable already existed, then inside the block it gets redefined, but it doesn't have to be that way. You just put semicolon and the name of the variable, and then it's scoped to that block, and afterwards you get the old one again. Pretty cool, right? Can Java do this? Don't think so. Okay, so here's another thing. So this is a bit of a complicated regular expression, the one at the top. Yeah, sorry if it's a bit small, but there was a bit more code on this slide. So this is actually from the act as taggable on gem. Now the thing is, like explaining a regular expression like that is a pain in the ass. But if you put that X at the end of the regular expression, you can actually put white space and comments inside there, and it'll just get stripped out, and it's still like, so these two regular expressions are the same. They just, they serve to extract tags that have spaces and then with like quotes around it. Yeah, a couple other things here. So that's where the cursor is now, 0 with look ahead. I guess I don't really have to explain that kind of stuff. That's pretty basic, right? So Ruby regular expressions, super cool. Yeah, so these Unicode literals in strings. So you know, in Ruby 1.8, strings were basically character arrays. So you had that already, that hexadecimal way of putting specific bytes in your string. But in Ruby 1.9, they're basically code point or character arrays. And so you can put a Unicode character with a specific hexadecimal Unicode code point right in the string. Related is that we got these two enumerators to enumerate over the characters or the code points of a string. So in Ruby 1.8, you would have to write like split on an empty regular expression, or you would have to unpack the Unicode code points. Whereas now we basically get nice, and they're enumerators, so you can do like drop and select and then whatever on it. And the fun thing is that if you then start using these Unicode literals in regular expressions, you can define ranges of Unicode characters. So let's see how that works. So these are actually all the Unicode code point ranges that contain Chinese, Japanese, Korean characters. So if we map those to strings that have those like range expressions, turn them into regular expressions, and now, bam, we scan our string and we get all the Chinese characters out. A couple more fun things here to note. So when you have an integer and you do 2s, you can put a base to turn it into hexadecimal in this case. Also, when you get a method object, in this case the new method of rejects, it responds to proc, so you can just pass it in as if it's a block. So that's fun. And rejects union, really cool, like just putting regular expressions together and basically with pipes between them, so they're like ORed. Okay, time's running out fast. Speed this up a bit. So on the command line, Ruby is a bit like awk. So you can do it like this. You can just read standard input and do something with it. But you can also give this -n, and then it'll go through every line. And every line will get assigned to $_. If you want to output that, then well, I don't know what's going out there. Then you can use P, and then it'll output $_ again at the end of the loop. You can do even more fun stuff. If you have like separated with tabs, you can put the A in there to auto split it, and then it gets separated to $F as the arrays of the separate fields. So here I'm counting the number of fields of each line, and then with F you can put the delimiter. So here, yeah, okay, that's time's pretty much up, and woo! Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think you're so far leading because you mentioned Java most often. Ready?
Ready.
Go.
It's on?
It's
Hey.
on.
So you know me as Michael Papis. I do RVM, but I was hard to write Java twice. So some time ago, I had problems with engineer. They stopped paying for my work on RVM, and I've decided to ask you to help me finance it. And thanks to you all, we got $51,000. So big thank you for everybody who contributed. This will allow me to work on RVM till end of the year. There is a thing, RVM1, and the current version is RVM1.25. And I probably will add no new features. So please get used to this number. It's the last one. But if you have problems, just report them. I still fix issues. As long as RVM2 is not released, I will fix issues for RVM1. So I had some time off. I was fixing issues for RVM1, but besides it, I was playing Warzone 2100. Yeah, it looks something like this. So yeah, just try it. It's open source game. It's for Windows, OS 10, and Linux. So you can play it everywhere. So that's it. If you have any things, contact me. I will be at the party. Talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you. So who's left? You're the last one? Or anybody else? Okay. Okay. Ready? Go.
Okay.
Microphone.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard some laughs already. Actually, it's a really hard problem. I think the Wroclaw team really solved it very well. So big applause for them for the nice Wi-Fi. So there are some things they have done right. For example, they brought like proper hardware, which actually runs with Java. Ooh. So it's enterprisey. They also don't use the captive portal. I had it last year because everybody was then basically blocked at this page because the captive portal server couldn't keep up with it. So don't use a captive portal. Another thing that happens here before, it's a standard thing, the subnet mask. We just type it in, and it basically means, yeah, you can serve 120 users. Why 120? There's 255. Well, most of you probably have 2 devices in this network. So think of it. So that's what you can do on the hardware side of thing, and then there's this general issue with what is this Wi-Fi. So it's radio, so it's a shared network, so everybody's on there. And we all cover some channels. And you already see it here. Well, we have like 14 channels, but you use more than one channel. So that basically means this is really nice, they did it right. It's like every access point is like way apart, so they don't cross-talk to each other, so no interference. But there are other Wi-Fis, and they're not so nice. And this is actually a real bastard, because it says like, oh, I want to be super fast, so I use an extra channel. But it actually means I'm just super noisy, and because there are other Wi-Fis around, they probably have a lower bandwidth than everybody else who's just using one channel, because it's probably busy with error correction all the time. What also doesn't help is this. Oh, the Wi-Fi sucks, so I just open up my own Wi-Fi. Oh, thanks for adding to the noise in the room. Yeah, and here you see like what's actually happening. So I was on this on this node, and then somebody changed over to this channel, and also I had like a real nice signal from 70%. Basically, only 10% was signal. So I get mostly, if you look at it, that was like the ping, and you see like packet drops and really long ping times. And one thing to solve that, besides having separate channels and don't have too many noise neighbors and put not too many Wi-Fi points in one room, that actually happened once where they thought like, yeah, let's add a lot of Wi-Fis. And it all worked nice until actually people came online, and they had like 12 or 15 access points, and it broke down immediately because there were just too many, so they have to switch it off. So well done with the Wi-Fi here. And actually, this is how you fix it all. You use the 5 gigahertz network. Most of the computers support it, but you see it's pretty empty there. Silence. Yeah, but you also need like 2 of them to actually serve like 300 people. So it's probably worth it. Yeah, and there are some more smaller tips, like why it makes sense to put Wi-Fi's under your seat on this blog post that I wrote about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Are you ready?
Hello. My name is Matt. I run the software house consulting service. What we usually do is we play this game. I played this game today, and if you've ever played this, then this is a very sad picture. I was this close to winning, and I did not win. Apart from playing this game, we build quite a lot of fun stuff, and when you build fun stuff, you usually you get paid, and we work for foreign clients, so we want to get paid in euros, dollars, and other currencies. And the talk is about how to get paid in different currencies and not get ripped off. So I guess this is interesting for you guys because there's a lot of companies working for foreign clients and a lot of freelancers working the same way. And getting paid in a different currency can be very, very painful and quite expensive. So the client usually asks you to pay by PayPal, which sucks. It really does, because they take about 3 or 4% commission, and on top of that, they charge you for the exchange rate, because you cannot withdraw money in dollars. You have to exchange it, and you lose a lot of money. Obviously, you should never ever receive wires in euros to a Polish to a zloty account, because that hurts even more. So what are the solutions? And we lost quite a lot of money because we did not think about this before. I think the best idea is to use a wire transfer to a currency account and then use an online exchange. Your bank has a really nice exchange. There are probably a lot more, but I use this one. It has no fees and a very tiny spread. And the client will complain because American clients do not like to make wire transfers. They really hate it. But it only costs about 20 or 50 bucks, and you get the money quite fast if they can make the wire, because sometimes it's not that easy. You can also use authorized net or any other card processor to charge their credit cards, which is about 2 or 2.5% for a fee. And clients absolutely love to use credit cards. But it is painful to get it up and running because it requires quite a lot of paperwork. But even once you get authorized net running, you still need to convert the currency, which makes you go back to the previous slide. One last thing is you should also try and use, if you pay a lot for online services like GitHub or Jira or whatever, then you should think about using cards in euros because you lose quite a lot of money. Thank you.